So in this story, we're going to go over reading in depth, which is also called thoroughly reading. So reading in depth means reading a text more carefully. This does not mean that you have to read every word out aloud or stop every time you come to a word that you don't know, or maybe you get to read so slowly, or you get to check every word you don't know in the dictionary. No, that is not the meaning of reading in depth. So, reading in depth is just reading carefully because your aim is to get to understand this text. So, when I'm talking about reading in depth, it is used to gain a deeper meaning and also understanding of a text. It is also a research, detailed information for an assignment. So, you are getting to research because you want to find out a detailed information for an assignment that you might have. So, that is reading in depth. So when you are reading in depth, you read difficult sections of a text. Okay. So that is what you get to look at when you are reading in depth. So when you want to read in depth or thoroughly reading, there are some strategies that you get to look at or methods. So we have got the RAP strategy, the reader strategy, and the 5 S's, and also SQ3R. And these you need to pay attention very much well, because if you just miss the meaning of a word, you are going to get it wrong. Now, let's first understand the RAP strategy. What does it mean? So when you're talking about the RAP strategy, RAP, these are just letters. R stands for read, A stands for ask, and then P stands for put. So here what you are saying is when you are reading, the first thing that you want to understand this text. So first you need to read the paragraphs or sections of that text. That is the first thing that you do. Remember, your aim is to understand this text. So the first thing is read the text. And then if you read that text, now you need to ask yourself some questions about what you have read. And that is important because you want to find out if you've understood what you read. So ask yourself some questions. And then after you ask yourself some questions, those answers that you're going to be finding, put the answers now in your own words and then make notes. Write down those answers. For example, you were asking yourself questions, and then the answers that you are responding, you are writing them down. Those are now your notes that you are making. So this is the RAP strategy. So this method can be used whenever you are reading a difficult passage or when you find your comprehension wandering from the passage. For example, when you are reading and you find out that you are going away from the passage, you're not really getting what the passage is talking about. So you can do this: read and then ask yourself questions and then put the answers or to your questions in writing. So by taking your eyes off the page and making yourself reflect on the meaning of what you've just read, you are going to find and develop the ability to recall and retell yourself the information along with its relevant importance and where it fits with the other information. So that is about the RAP strategy. That is the first one, the RAP strategy. The second one, when you're talking about reading in depth, is the reader strategy. So these are letters which stands for something. So reader means the R stands for read, the I stands for imagine, the D stands for describe, and then the A stands for add. Please, you need to know these letters. You need to know these letters and what they stand for. So the first thing is read. You are going to first read your text. When you read your text, start imagining what the text is about, like the scenes. You get to imagine, okay, you are putting this scenario. For example, you read, it was on one Monday morning that I met this beautiful dancer at the University of Zambia. No sooner had I met her than she jumped on me. Was surprised by the scene. I wonder to myself, what is happening? So you are getting to imagine this story as you are reading. Not because it has happened to you, but you are just relating with the passage. So when you read, imagine as if something is true. And then now start telling it to yourself. Describe it to yourself. So you start telling yourself, wow. So this is what is happening. Wow, what of this and this? You are describing to yourself. And then after reading, you can now add some more ideas to what you've just read. So this strategy is very, very important. Like, it will help you to get to understand more about your reading. So this strategy makes you to reflect on the details about places, people, action, and events, and creates a picture based on the words and the style of language used by the author. You can note which imagery or which, remember, you are making images in your mind. So which imagery has the most powerful effect? So as you get to imagine things, there is a part for imagining there. The I stands for imagine. So as you get to imagine, you're going to see which portions are the most important. Like when you're getting to imagine scenes, you find out that the concentration of the story is on this portion and not on this portion. So that is on the radar strategy. And then the other one, the other strategy is the 5S. Please, you need to know this and don't swap them. The 5S, the first S is skim, then scan, then select, then slap, then summarize. These are the 5 S's. Now, we already know what skim is because we had looked at that in the previous video. So to skim is just to read the introduction, summary, the first sentence, and also the last sentence of each paragraph. That is basically to skim. And the main aim of skimming is you want to find out if you are going to be interested in reading this text. And then after you read, and maybe you are interested in reading that text, but you are not interested in reading basically everything, maybe you're only interested in reading the causes, then you are going to scan. So to scan is just looking for specific information. For example, where is the information on causes of drug abuse? So you're only interested on a specific information, that is to scan. So when you skim, you want to find out if you are going to be interested in reading, and then you scan, you want to find out the information specifically on a certain subject, and then you are going to select. Now, do you need to read this entire chapter? Select the sections that you need to know more about. So that is now what you get to do. Remember, you from just what you are from scanning, and when I'm talking about scanning is you are just looking for some specific sections. So if you find those sections, like the information on causes, you are interested on causes, the information on causes, so you are going to select, well, I want to look at the information that is talking about causes. Now when you select those information, then you are going to now go into the slap. Now the slap is now you read in depth and more slowly the selected section, so you can tell yourself about this concept. Now read again if necessary. So you first skim if you want to gain interest, and then you want to find out the information on what. If you find out what you want to out the information on, then select what you want to find out on. If you select, then you are going to read now in details. When you read in details, what will be the end now is get to summarize what you've read. And summarizing, you shouldn't take more minutes, not above 10 minutes. So this is the 5 S's of reading. Very, very important. And you need to know the letters, what they stand for, and also know the order. And then we have got SQ3R, very important. So the S here means, before we get to know the meaning, so the SQ3R method of study reading is one of the core activities of study. You need to be able to understand what you read and be able to recall the many ideas when you need them. So you can use the SQ3R to help you to read. Now remember, here we are saying S, so we have got S, Q, and then 3R means you have got one R, another R, and then another R. So this is the first stage, second stage, third stage, which is R1, fourth stage, which is R2, and then fifth stage, which is R3. These are exam questions. What is the fourth stage of SQ3R? The fourth stage is here, so you are going to see what that R means, which is the fourth stage. So starting with the S, so S means survey. So before you start to read, survey the material to gain an overview of the content. Approach a reading by scanning the title, subheadings, and any summary or abstracts. Doing this will help you to gain an idea of the many ideas of the topic. So you may also find that you get some ideas of the author's position. So to survey basically is to look at the general understanding of the text. Generally, the understanding of the text, that is to survey. So the first thing when it comes to reading is just have a general understanding of the topic, and you get to look at the titles, not really the topic but the general understanding of the book by looking at the titles, subtitles, and any summaries if they are there, and what the topic is really about, what the book is really about. So these are some of the things that you get to look at. By surveying, you are going to know the basic idea of the author. What was the author trying to bring out? So when you survey, remember we are saying it is SQ3R. When you survey, now the next thing will be a Q, which is a question. You've already found out the general idea of the topic. Now you get to question. So in the question, your reading will be more memorable if you question the material. That is very important. So ask yourself what the lecturer or tutor says about the chapter or the subject. So what does my teacher say about this subject that I'm just from reading? Or what does the lecturer say? Ask yourself questions and then devise questions that will guide your reading. So think about specific questions that you need to or would like to find answers for. For example, you are reading this topic, you want to find out the causes of maybe substance abuse. So make it a question: what are the causes of substance abuse? So every time you are reading, you are interested in finding answers to that question that you've put, and then read in focus questions at the end of the reading. Read any focus question at the end of the reading. So after you're reading, for example, maybe after reading the text has got some questions, so you need to read those questions at the end of your reading, you see. So if there are headings in the material, turn the headings into questions. For example, the heading is qualitative and quantitative research. Your question might be, what is the difference between these two types of research? Or maybe you are reading about molality and molarity. So you can put a question: what is the difference between molarity and molality? So we have got molality and molarity. So you can put this as a question and then you start now reading. So we've looked at the S and then the Q, which is question. Now what are the three R's? So the first R means subjects, and then you formulated questions. Now you are going to read. So be prepared to read the material twice. First, read without making notes. Making notes means writing down what you are reading. So first, read without writing down what you are reading. So when you are reading, look for the author's plan. Read any headings or abstract or summaries. This will give you an idea of the many thesis or the main idea. And then look for answers to the questions that you had already raised in the queue. And then compare diagrams and illustrations with the written text. So are the diagrams which are in the book agreeing with the text that has been written? And then make sure that you understand what you are reading. Reduce your reading speed for difficult passages. If a passage is difficult, stop and read a bit slowly. That will be very, very important. If you have difficulty in understanding a text, look up difficult words now in a dictionary. Alright, so that is a read. Remember, you are prepared to read twice a time, cannot tell. And then 6 here, question the author's reasoning. As you get to read, you don't just accept everything. What was the author about writing about? Is it just justifiable? Is what he's saying making sense? So you need to question the author's uh, reasoning. You memory so to read. What is your experience of what you've read? So you can also look at that. But remember that your experience is not always what is a fact. So always be willing also to accept new things that you get to meet. So on your second reading, now begin to take down notes. Note down the many ideas of each paragraph, which is basically the first and last sentence. Look for important details, that is supporting evidence, written illustrations of points, or alternatives. For example can be good cause for your memory. So like when you are reading, to make sure that you take note of important points, you need to look at examples. Examples are going to be really helpful for you to be able to understand. And also take notes from the text but write information in your own words. So you take notes from the text, but as you get to write down in your own words. Okay, and in your notes underline or highlight point. This will be useful for later review, just later revisions. So that is the first R, that is read. And then after you read, now you need to recall. So recall, you should now try to recall what you read. Can you remember what you read? Choose the close the book, make notes of what you read, check their accuracy against the notes you made during your reading. So remember, as you were reading, you were prepared to read twice. So for the second reading that you made, you are also writing down notes. But here now you want to recall. As you are recalling, you are putting down things that you are able to remember. So after finishing putting down the things that you are able to remember, now compare these things that you've written down with the things that you wrote as you were reading. And then after that, now you need to return to the reading. Read one section at a time and try to recall what you have read. It can be helpful to recite ideas aloud to help you remember. So you can be even shouting out ideas, not really shouting, but just saying them out. So after that, now you've got a review. So first, the first thing you do is survey, that is SQ3, survey, question, and then the first R read, the second R, that is just from talking about, is now recall. Remember, recall, but don't say remember if it came in an exam. The R means recall, not remember. Of course, they are the same words. And then now the last one is a review. So what is about reviewing? So now review what you have read. At the end of your study period, check the accuracy of your notes against the original material, like you've read, you've studied. Now to review, are you is what you've been doing, the notes you've been writing down, accurate enough in comparison to the original material that you are reading? This is an important part of the process because it can really help you remember what you have studied. Very, very important. And then the next day, read your notes to acquit yourself with the main idea. So get to read again just to make sure that you've understood more, or you want to make sure that the ideas are still in your head. And then read through the questions you noted down and try to answer them from your memory, not from what you wrote down. And also trying doing the same thing after a few days, just to make sure that you've what understood. And then periodically reviewing your notes is going to help you to prepare for an exam. Like every time you go back to the notes that you wrote, you go through them, you go through them again, you go through them again. That is really going to help you to what make sure that you have understood. So which is very, very important. So that is about some reading strategies when it comes to thoroughly reading. So